You are not an accident. That may sound like a bold statement, especially in a world where so many people feel overlooked, underappreciated, or forgotten. But let me be clear, your very existence is evidence that you are here for a reason. You didn't just show up on this planet to pay bills, to get through the motions, to survive Monday through Friday and call that a life. You were built with purpose, with power, with divine intentionality. There is nothing random about you. Look around you. Everything in nature is intentional. The seasons shift on schedule. The planets orbit with precision. A seed becomes a towering tree not because of luck, but because that's what it was built to become. You are no different. Somewhere along the line, you started believing that your dreams were optional, that your voice wasn't needed, that your ideas were too much, your presence too big, your vision too unrealistic. That's a lie that got planted by fear, by rejection, comparison, by a world that profits when you stay small. But deep inside you, buried underneath the doubt, the insecurity, the self-censorship, there is a knowing, a fire that never went out. That whisper that says, there's more. You've heard it in the quiet moments, when you're by yourself, away from the noise, away from the expectations, when you're honest enough to admit that you're restless, unsatisfied, and done pretending. That whisper, that's the truth. Because let me tell you, you don't get to wake up every morning with breath in your lungs, passion in your gut, and dreams in your heart and then say, I'm just average. No, you were born with potential that stretches far beyond your current circumstances. Your background doesn't define you. Your past failures don't define you. Your mistakes, your upbringing, the labels others have put on you. None of those determine your destiny unless you let them. What does define you? The decisions you make now, the standards you raise now, the identity you choose now. You have to stop asking for permission to be powerful. Stop waiting for someone to tap you on the shoulder and say, it's your turn. You don't need that. You need to claim it. Step into it. That spark inside you, that's the signal. That's your blueprint. It's time to stop negotiating with your greatness. You're not here to play small and call it humility. Playing small is not noble. It's a denial of who you really are. People will tell you to be realistic, to stay safe, to follow the rules, to fit in, to not cause waves. But what they're really saying is, please don't make me uncomfortable by doing what I'm too afraid to do. Don't listen to that. You weren't to blend in. You were built to break through. The world doesn't need more copies. It needs originals. It needs you. And let's be real, if you were just here to get by, if you were just another number, then why do you feel so pulled toward more? Why do you keep waking up with dreams that won't let you go? Why do you feel the inner frustration every time you shrink? Every time you say yes when you mean no? Every time you hold back your voice, your truth, your vision? Because deep down, you know you're made for something greater. And that's not ego, that's clarity. Too many people spend their lives asking, who am I to think I could do something big? When the real question is, who am I not to? You've got gifts that other people are praying for, insight that can change someone's life. Energy that can shift a room. Your existence isn't random. It's required. You're not just here to exist. You're here to expand, to evolve, to influence, to build, to shake the system, to light a path that others can follow. Playing small is the most dangerous thing you can do with a life that was meant to be powerful. Every time you hold back, you're not just robbing yourself, you're robbing the people who were meant to be impacted by the full version of you. Think about it. How many people will never get to hear the message inside you because you're stuck thinking you're unqualified? How many lives will never be touched because you've convinced yourself you're not ready? You are more than ready. You're overdue. You were built for this, built for more than mediocrity, more than small talk and safe choices, more than a life that looks good on outside but feels hollow on the inside. And you know it. You've always known it. The enemy is comfort. It's not failure. It's not rejection. It's not the criticism from others or the obstacles in your way. The real danger is that slow, seductive, silent killer called comfort. That place where nothing challenges you, nothing stretches you, nothing forces you to grow. Comfort is a liar. It whispers in your ear, you're fine. Take it easy. You've done enough. And before you know it, you're stuck. Not because you don't have the potential, but because you've accepted a life that's good enough when you were built for great. Comfort is the warm bed that keeps you from the cold truth. It's the 5 more minutes of sleep that cost you years of opportunity. It's the voice that says, at least you have a job. When your soul is screaming for a calling, it's the routine you hate but refuse to break because discomfort requires effort. comfort convinces you that movement is the same as progress, that busy is the same as productive, that survival is the same as living. It numbs your urgency and dulls your hunger. Here's the truth. Nothing extraordinary was ever born in comfort. No legacy built with someone who played it safe. Every breakthrough, every reinvention, every person who's ever changed the world had to step out of what was familiar and into what was unknown. Growth lives on the other side of challenge. And challenge doesn't visit those who are married to comfort. It passes them by and finds those who are willing to be uncomfortable on purpose. Comfort teaches you to avoid risk. But what you don't realize is that the biggest risk is avoiding risk altogether. When you're comfortable, you stop evolving, your dreams become memories, your edge becomes dull. And you start shrinking your life to match your current limitations instead of expanding your capabilities to match true potential. You build walls to protect your comfort, and then one day you wake up and realize those walls are your prison. It's not that people don't want more. It's that they want more without discomfort. They want success without sweat. They want confidence without courage. They want transformation without resistance. But it doesn't work like that. Diamonds are made under pressure. Muscles grow through resistance. Fire forges steel. You can't bypass the uncomfortable and expect to arrive at excellence. Comfort makes promises it can't keep. It tells you that if you just stay here, stay quiet, stay small, things will be okay. But deep down, okay isn't what you were made for. You were made to feel alive, to feel your heart race with purpose, to wake up excited, not just existing. And that doesn't happen in the comfort zone. It happens in the stretch zone, the zone where you feel exposed, where you might mess up, where you might look foolish. That's the place where real transformation begins. You've got to understand your future self is not built in ease. It's built in tension, in friction, in adversity. If you're not uncomfortable regularly, it means you've stopped challenging yourself. And if you've stopped challenging yourself, you've started settling. You might not even notice it at first because comfort is sneaky. It wraps itself in routine. It hides behind stability. It makes excuses look reasonable and dreams look unrealistic. But let me ask you this. What price are you paying to stay comfortable? What is comfort costing you in terms of growth, fulfillment, joy, and purpose? Because comfort always has a cost. You don't get to keep it for free. You trade your dreams for it. You trade your edge. You trade your fire. And that trade always leaves you empty. There's a version of you that exists on the other side of discomfort. A version with more strength, more clarity, more grit, more confidence. But you'll never meet that version if you keep choosing what's easy. You've got to get to a point where staying the same is more painful than changing. Where the idea of wasting your potential hurts more than the fear of failing. That's when the shift happens. That's when you stop flirting with your growth and start marrying it. Discomfort is not the enemy. It's the invitation. It's the test. It's the doorway to everything you've been asking for. But most people never walk through that door because they're too busy negotiating with their fear, justifying their hesitation, rationalizing their lack of action. They dress their comfort up as wisdom, as patience, as being practical. But deep down, they know it's fear. Fear in disguise. You don't get to play big while staying comfortable. You can either have your excuses or your evolution. You can't have both. If you want to build a life that reflects your real worth, if you want to experience the depth of your power, your purpose, your capacity, you're going to have to make a decision. You're going to have to choose discomfort on purpose. Choose the hard path. Choose the stretch. Because it's not comfort that will wake you up in the morning with fire in your veins. It's not comfort that will give you that feeling of being fully alive. It's stepping into challenge. It's doing the hard thing anyway. It's walking into the storm because you know on the other side of it, there's a version of you waiting, and that version is unstoppable. The power of decision is the power that changes everything. At some point, you have to stop circling around the life you want and make a decision to step into it. One real, raw, no turning back decision holds more power than 1,000 wishes. Most people don't lack motivation, they lack decision. They talk about what they want, what they hope for, what they should do, but deep down they're still undecided, and that's why nothing changes. Because until you decide, you remain available to your excuses, your distractions, and your limitations. A true decision is not just a thought, it's a shift, it's a break in the pattern. It's drawing a line in the sand that says, no more of the old. I'm done living beneath my potential. This is who I am now. The moment you decide, really decide, the universe starts to move. Resources begin to appear. Opportunities start to align, but they don't show up when you're half in. Life doesn't respond to lukewarm energy. It responds to commitment. People underestimate how powerful they are because they've never seen what they can do when they stop negotiating with their doubts and fully commit to a direction. They stay stuck in maybe, someday, and we'll see. But indecision is the silent killer of momentum. Indecision breeds anxiety, confusion, and wasted time. You sit on the fence long enough and you start to think the fence is your home. But it's not. It's a holding pattern, and it's keeping you from the life you were built to live. Every transformation begins with a decision. Not when the timing is perfect, not when you feel ready, not when everything is lined up and makes sense, but in the chaos, in the uncertainty, in the moment where you say, I don't have it all figured out, but I've had enough of where I am. That's the spark. That's when you stop waiting for a guarantee and start trusting your own power. The problem is most people don't make decisions. They make preferences. They say they want to be fit, but they won't decide to stop quitting. They say they want to build a business, but they won't decide to go all in. They say they want more confidence, more freedom, more fulfillment, but they don't decide to leave the comfort that's shaking them. They're attached to the idea, but not the identity, but nothing changes until you step in the version of yourself that demands more. Decisions shape your identity. Every time you make a real decision, you're not just changing your behavior, you're rewriting the story of who you are. You're telling your brain, this is what we do now. This is who we are. And once your identity starts to shift, your life begins to shift with it. That's why the decision is so powerful, because it overrides the old programming. It breaks the loop. It ends the debate between who you've been and who you're becoming. You have to understand you're one decision away from a completely different life, and not a dozen at once. One choice to walk away, one choice to start, one choice to believe in yourself more than you believe in your fear. That one decision creates a ripple effect. It changes how you speak, how you act, how you show up. And over time, it transforms your entire world, but it starts in a moment, in a second, in that place where you finally decide that the pain of staying the same is greater than the fear of changing. People look for clarity, but clarity doesn't come before decision. It comes after. Action creates clarity. Movement brings answers. You don't need to see the whole staircase. You just need to take the first step and trust yourself to figure it out as you go. Fear tells you to wait. Faith tells you to move. And decision is the bridge between the two. It's how you take back control. It's how you stop reacting to life and start designing it. You were never meant to drift. You weren't built to stay on autopilot. You've got a mind that can shape reality. You've got emotions that can fuel progress. And you've got a will that, when activated, can break through any resistance. But none of that matters if you won't decide. Decide to stop playing small. Decide to stop tolerating average. Decide to stop giving your power away to doubt, to fear, to the opinions of people who aren't even living the life you want. There's a force inside you that's waiting to be unleashed, and it's not waiting on a miracle or a motivational quote or a sign from the universe. It's waiting on you to make a decision, to go from interested to committed, to go from dabbling to dominating, to go from I wish to I will. Because once you decide, you'll start to see just how much power has been sitting dormant in you this whole time. Limiting beliefs must be broken. They're the invisible chains that hold you back, the mental prisons that keep you confined even when the door is wide open. They don't scream, they whisper. They disguise themselves as logic, as common sense, as realism. They pretend to be your friend, your protector, your voice of reason, but what they really are is fear, dressed up in a language your mind has learned to trust. And what is it? They're the stories you've repeated so many times that you started mistaking them for truth. I'm not good enough. I'm too late. I'm not smart enough. I wasn't born into the right family. It's just not in the cards for me. I've failed too many times already. None of those are facts. They're beliefs. And the only reason they feel so real is because you've been agreeing with them for so long. Limiting beliefs are built in the moments you were hurt, rejected, abandoned, overlooked. They grow in the soil of fear and comparison. Maybe someone told you that you'd never make it. Maybe you tried and failed, and instead of learning, you labeled yourself a failure. Maybe you measured yourself against someone further along and decided you weren't worthy of playing the game. Whatever the origin, those beliefs didn't come from your power, they came from your pain, and yet you've built your life around them, you've made decisions based on them, you've shaped your identity around these lies, carrying like a weight on your back, letting them dictate what you try, how far you reach. Who you become, you've learned to limit your expression, your ambition, your authenticity, because somewhere along the line you believed that playing small would keep you safe. But safety is not your purpose. Survival is not your destiny, and comfort is not the same as fulfillment. You need to get clear in your beliefs are either building your future or burying it. Every action you take or don't take is a reflection of what you believe about yourself. If you believe you're not capable, you won't even try. If you believe you don't deserve it, you'll sabotage it the moment it starts to work. If you believe other people have something you don't, you'll keep playing the role of the spectator in a game you were meant to dominate. Your beliefs shape your identity, and your identity dictates your behavior. So if you want to change your results, you don't just need a new strategy. You need a new story. You need to dig up the old narratives by the roots and confront them head on. Challenge them. Question them. Ask yourself, who told me this was true? When did I decide this was who I am? What evidence have I been ignoring that proves otherwise? The truth is, most of your limiting beliefs aren't even yours. They were handed down by parents, teachers, media, culture. They were absorbed when you were too young to filter truth from noise. And because they came early, they dug in deep. But just because a belief has history doesn't mean it deserves authority. Just because it feels familiar doesn't mean it's true. You are not limited by your potential. You are limited by your perception. What you think is holding you back is not your lack of skill, resources, or talent. It's the mental ceiling you've installed in your own mind. And ceilings are made to be broken, but you have to be willing to do the work. You have to be willing to unlearn, to let go of the comfort of your current identity and step into the discomfort of possibility. It's going to feel like war sometimes, because it is. It's a war between the version of you that's attached to the past and the version of you that's calling from the future. One is loud, familiar, and full of reasons. The other is quiet, powerful, and full of vision, and you've got to choose which voice to follow. Because whichever one you feed is the one that wins. When you break a limiting belief, you don't just change your thinking, you change your trajectory. Suddenly, doors that felt locked swing open. Opportunities that seemed out of reach become accessible. You stop seeing the world through the lens of lack and start seeing it through the lens of power. You move differently, speak differently, think differently. Because you're no longer filtering your life through the story of, I can't. There is a different version of you on the other side of every belief you break. A version with more courage, more clarity, more capacity. But that version doesn't come from wishing. It comes from confronting, from refusing to carry the weight of lies any longer, from standing in the mirror, looking yourself in the eyes, and saying, that story ends with me. Your life will always rise or fall to the level of your beliefs. So if you want to elevate your results, your relationships, your reality, you've got to start by elevating what you believe is possible for you. Because belief is the foundation of every breakthrough. And what is it? In the moment you stop accepting limits as facts is the moment you begin rewriting what's possible. The world needs your full force, not the watered down version of you, not the polite, agreeable, shrink to fit version you've trained yourself to be so that others wouldn't feel uncomfortable, and not the version you've filtered for approval, diluted for acceptance, or silenced for safety. The world needs all of you, unfiltered, unapologetic, fully activate here, because someone is waiting on what you've been holding back. And they'll never receive it if you keep playing small, if you keep hiding behind fear, perfectionism, and self-doubt. You weren't given your fire by accident. You weren't wired with a passion, a dream, or a vision just so you could bury it under a paycheck and a schedule. There is something inside you that is meant to be expressed, built, created, fought for. And the longer you keep it locked away, the more you suffer. Because deep down, you know you're not here just to take up space. You're here to move something, shift something, build something, change something. But we live in a world that tries to train that power out of you. It teaches you to be realistic, to keep your head down, to follow the rules and not make too much noise. From the time you were a child, you were likely taught to conform, to behave, to not rock the boat. Over time, those little lessons compound. And slowly, you learn to trade your voice for validation, your instincts for instruction, your uniqueness for belonging. But here's the truth, the people who change the world are never the ones who fit in. They're the ones who finally decided to stop betraying themselves. They're the ones who stopped editing their truth to make others comfortable. They're the ones who realized that their power doesn't lie in being like everyone else. It lies in owning who they are, fully and without compromise. When you show up in your full force, you give others permission to do the same. You become the signal in a world full of noise. People can feel it. They don't always understand it, but they feel it. That presence, conviction, that energy, it's magnetic. And it doesn't come from trying to be impressive. It comes from being authentic. It comes from alignment. When your soul, your words, your actions all point in the same direction, you become unstoppable. But that can happen if you're still apologizing for who you are. It can't happen if you're still waiting for external validation to justify your internal knowing. You don't need a title, a platform, or permission. You just need to decide that who you are is enough. Not someday. Not when you've achieved more. Not when you've got it all figured out now, as you are, with what you know, with what you have. Too many people die with their gifts still inside them. Not because they didn't have time, but because they never gave themselves permission to be fully seen. They were too afraid of being judged, misunderstood, or rejected. So they played the part, followed the script, kept their brilliance in a box. But purpose doesn't come from safety. It comes from expression, from giving the world what's raw, what's uniquely you. You were not built to be neutral. You were built to take up space, to lead, to inspire, to ignite. And that doesn't always mean standing on a stage. It means showing up wherever you are with intensity, with clarity, with integrity. It means being the kind of person who refuses to dim down in a world that thrives on people playing small. It means bringing your full intelligence, your full heart, your full creativity into every room you walk into. Not because you want to prove something, but because it's who you are. And yes, some people won't get it. Some people will feel threatened by your light, triggered by your truth, or intimidated by your certainty. That's okay. You're not here for everyone. You're here for the ones who are ready, the ones who will hear your message, feel your presence, and remember their own power. But they can't remember who they are until you fully become who you are. You're the spark, you're the mirror, you're the permission slip. So if you've been holding back, waiting for the right moment, this is it. Not because everything is perfect, because the world doesn't need more perfect people. It needs more real ones. It needs people who are willing to live out loud, who are willing to lead with love and truth, who are willing to risk discomfort to live with meaning. There's a version of you that the world is desperate to experience. Not someday, but now. Not partially, but fully. Not politely, but powerfully. There are lives that won't be touched until you show up. There are movements that won't be sparked until you speak up. There are doors that won't open. You decide to stop hiding, stop shrinking, stop pretending. You've got a fire that can light the way for others, a vision that can shift paradigms, a strength that can rebuild foundations. But none of that matters if you don't step into it. If you don't own it, if you don't bring your full force to the table and stop settling for just being accepted when you were built to be unforgettable. Your pain has a purpose. You didn't walk through what you walked through for nothing. The nights you cried yourself to sleep, the betrayals that shattered your trust, the moments you questioned your own worth, the silent battles no one saw, they weren't meaningless. They didn't happen just to break you down. They happened to break you open. They happened to awaken something in you that comfort never could. Because pain isn't just there to punish, it's there to shape, to refine, to realign. You might not see it in the moment. Pain doesn't show up with explanations. It doesn't arrive gently or come with clarity. It feels messy, chaotic, unfair. It strips you of your certainty. It wrecks your sense of control. And in that raw space, it forces you to confront what's real. Because pain doesn't lie. It reveals what matters, what's broken, what's been buried under distraction or denial. It pulls the mask off and shows you where the work is. You grow the most when you're uncomfortable. Nobody evolves in the middle of easy. Growth happens in the dark. In the pressure, the confusion, the disappointment, that's where you find out what you're made of. That's where you dig deep and access a part of you that was asleep during the smooth seasons. Pain demands that you go deeper than the surface. It forces you to choosing, will I shrink or will I rise? Will I let this define me or refine me? There are parts of your story you might be ashamed of, seasons you'd rather forget. But those are the exact places where your power is forged. Every scar tells a story. Every struggle builds a strength. That heartbreak didn't just leave you empty. It made room for something more real. That failure didn't mean you weren't enough. It taught you how to fight harder. That rejection didn't break you. It redirected you to something better. But you only see that when you stop trying to escape the pain and start listening to it. Pain is a messenger. It shows up when something needs to change, when something needs to heal, when something deep within you is being called to shift. And most people miss the message because they're too busy numbing it. They run from it, distract themselves from it, suppress it. But what you resist persists. What you avoid expands until you stop, face it, and ask, what are you here to teach me? The purpose of pain isn't to leave you wounded. It's to wake you up. It's to reconnect you to the parts of yourself you've ignored, the strength you forgot you had, the clarity that only comes after the storm. You don't become resilient by never being broken. You become resilient by rising after the break. And the truth is, people who've been through something, who've really suffered, they carry a different depth. They have more empathy, more wisdom, more fire. Because when you've walked through your own hell, you don't come out the same. That's why your pain isn't just for you. It's for someone else too. Someone who needs to hear your story. Someone who needs to know they're not alone. Someone who's walking through the fire you already survived. Your healing becomes their roadmap. Your breakthrough becomes their hope. But if you keep hiding your pain, if you keep pretending it didn't shape you, you rob the world of the very thing that makes you powerful. The world doesn't need more polished people with perfect stories. It needs real people who've been through real things and are still standing. People who turn pain into purpose, wounds in wisdom, and heartbreak into healing. People who stopped letting their past define them and started using it to drive them. That's where real impact comes from. Not from perfection, but from authenticity. There's a part of you that was born from the pain. A part that's braver, bolder, more alive. That version of you didn't exist before the storm. It was forged in the fire. And now you have a choice. You can carry your pain like a burden, or you can use it as fuel. You can stay stuck in the narrative of what happened to you, or you can step into the power of what it awakened in you. The experience didn't come to destroy you. It came to reveal you, to strip away the noise and expose the core of who you really are. You are not your pain, but your pain is part of your power. It shaped you, tested you, matured you. It burned away the illusions. It forced you to become resourceful, to get honest, to find strength you didn't even know you had. And now you're carrying something inside you that only people who've been through something can carry. A depth, a gravity, a presence. And with it comes the responsibility to live fully, to lead boldly, to no longer shrink back or stay silent. Because if you made it through what tried to break you, you didn't come out of that fire empty-handed. And time is not on your side. Move now. You don't have forever. You think you do, but you don't. You think there will always be more time. Next week, next month, year, but there won't. The clock is ticking and you're not in control of it. That's the hard truth most people don't want to face. You're not promised tomorrow. You're not guaranteed the next 5 minutes. And yet, so many people live like they've got unlimited time to chase the dream, to make the move, to heal the relationship, to become who they're supposed to be. You keep saying, someday. But someday is a fantasy. It's a mental escape hatch people use to delay discomfort. Someday isn't on the calendar. Someday isn't a strategy. You don't get your dream life by waiting for the right moment. You get it by deciding that now matters more than your fear, more than your doubt, more than your excuses. Because while you're waiting for certainty, time is moving. While you're overthinking your next step, someone else with less talent but more urgency is passing you by. You have to understand this deeply. Your day, every delay is a day you never get back. Every hour spent sitting on the sidelines, debating whether you're ready, is an hour you could have spent building, learning, evolving, leading. You think your potential will wait for you. It won't. Potential has a shelf life. If you don't use it, it will rot. It will harden. It will decay under the weight of your indecision. This isn't about rushing or panicking. It's about waking up, about recognizing the cost of your hesitation, about understanding that time doesn't care about your feelings. It keeps going whether you're inspired or lazy, committed or distracted, brave or afraid, and it will take with it your opportunities, your energy, your youth, your edge. Unless you decide that your mission is more important than your comfort, you keep thinking the stars need to align. You keep waiting for confidence to show up first. But that's not how it works. Confidence is not the prerequisite, it's the result. It comes after the leap, not before. The ones who win in life aren't the ones who always felt ready. They're the ones who moved anyway. The ones who understood that the cost of delay is far greater than the risk of action. You can always refine the plan, but you can't get back lost time. There are people out there right now living the life you dream of, not because they're better than you, but because they moved. They bet on themselves when it was uncomfortable. They made decisions when it was unclear. They started the business, made the call, had the conversation, launched the idea. While you were hesitating, they were building. While you were second guessing or executing, they didn't wait for motivation, they created momentum. The danger of delay is subtle. It tricks you into thinking you're safe, that you've got time. You scroll, you distract, you tell yourself you'll start next week. But next week turns into month, and next month turns into next year. and eventually regret starts to replace ambition, you start to feel the weight what you didn't do. The H of wasted time, the guilt of knowing you could have been further. That's not a burden you want to carry. And let's be real, you already know what you need to do. It's not about needing more information. It's not about finding the perfect mentor or reading one more book. You've consumed enough. You've planned enough. What you're lacking isn't knowledge. It's urgency. It's the willingness to act on what you already know, to trust yourself enough to move before the fear quiets down. Because it won't. Fear doesn't leave. You just get stronger. You can't build momentum standing still. You can't experience transformation in theory. Action is the catalyst. Movement is the teacher. The clarity you want is on the other side of execution. Not thinking, not preparing, doing. You've spent enough time warming up. It's time to get in the game. The world is not waiting for you to be perfect. It's waiting for you to be present, to show up, to decide. You don't need 10 years to change your life. You need 10 minutes of insane clarity and courage. You need to take one step without letting fear hijack the moment. One email, one phone call, one declaration, that's how it begins. And then momentum does what it always does. It amplifies, but it can't amplify what you don't start. Time is the one resource you can't get back. You can rebuild money, rebuild confidence, rebuild relationships, but you can't rewind the clock. You can't reclaim the days you wasted waiting. Every moment matters. Every decision stacks. And eventually your life becomes the result of the moments you didn't let slip by. So you have to decide what matters more, your fear or your future, your excuses or your evolution. Because while you're thinking about it, time is moving. While you're negotiating with yourself, time is taking inventory of your actions, and it's not waiting for you to be ready. So here it is, raw, real, undeniable. You were built for more. Every part of your journey, the pain, the pressure, the resistance, the setbacks, it's been preparing you, shaping you, refining you for what you're truly capable of. But none of it matters if you keep playing small. None of it matters if you keep choosing comfort over courage, delay over decision, doubt on an accident. You are not an accident. You're not here just to survive, here to build, to lead, to disrupt, to create, to elevate. And yes, it's going to take every ounce of your power, your grit, your passion, your fire. You'll have to shatter your limiting beliefs. You'll have to choose growth over fear again and again. You'll have to let go of needing approval and step into full ownership of your life. Stop waiting for the perfect moment. Stop waiting to feel ready. Time isn't on your side. It's moving whether you are or not. Your pain has a purpose. Your voice is power. Your story carries weight. The world needs your full force. Not tomorrow, not someday, but now. And the only thing standing in the way of your next level is the version of you that keeps settling for less. Decide today that you will no longer shrink to fit into spaces you've outgrown. Decide that your future deserves the boldest, most unapologetic version of you. Because the truth is, you already are everything you need. You just have to stop playing small and start living like you were built for more. Because you were. So stand up, step in, and show the world who you really are. Because your time is now, and you were built for more. Thank you for showing up. Thank you for listening. And most of all, thank you for daring to rise.